We want to take time we want to understand a few things. You are labeled as a man who is chief whip by the Joburg Post of targeting what we call sacred cows. You basically target these so-called men of God that are very questionable. Can you just tell us a little bit, how effective is that and how does it happen? Do these people really believe that they are, or there's an intentional deceit, or what has been your experience?
It's been quite, it varies, you know, but just before I actually go in there, I just want to say that the same pastor, prophet that allegedly raised,
resurrected someone,
you know, Elliot, though that's not his real name, Elliot from the dead, I have a bit of a history with him. History that goes down a couple of years ago. And this is a high court, this is a summon I got from the high court when he sued me. It's 96 pages, basically. He sued me twice.
So you were sued twice?
He sued me twice. This is a notice of motion from the High Court in Johannesburg. I got a lot of information. My background is journalism, so I used to run a magazine called Parable Magazine. So I investigate. So quite a lot of people came to me with very messy stories around him. Again, allegations against him that were just very disturbing. So I decided to investigate it. I dug deep. You know, there are allegations of, it's actually online, you can actually get it, you know, but there are just a lot of allegations. So I was on Radio Power FM. I was very angry, to be honest, because one of the things for me is I hate to see injustice. You know, spiritual injustice, political injustice, economical injustice. So when I got these reports, the allegations from these guys, it was a lot of injustice. You know, it was just somebody who seems like he is more powerful, so he just does stuff the way that he is. So unknown to me, they go to my Facebook page and they actually, they printed a lot of what I wrote. It's 96 pages. If any of you want to see it later, I would have it with me. And also, they now, on radio, I said quite a lot of stuff. They invited him to be a part of the discussion with Masi Chaba. He didn't pitch. Next thing, they tried to harass my wife. You know, my wife was 7 months pregnant. They called her, didn't know where they got her number, to come to the police station. They used the police station to intimidate her.
These are the prophets, the God's people.
If you actually watch the video, there is a guy in red. His name is Wise Man. He's a chief bodyguard to the prophet. I heard he was a hitman in Tembisa before he came in. So he was actually part of the guys who harassed my wife. Just so I shut up. They came to our house, you know, 3 times in the night to kill us. I had to move my wife away. So that's a bit of my history with him. Took me to court. Then I had a couple of witnesses, but then one of the witnesses was getting info and taking it away to the opponent. So basically our case was very, almost weak. So my attorney said, look, Solomon, I think you could, just settle out of court. So we settled out of court, but about a year later again, it was his birthday, 42nd birthday, I think. He got a Rolls Royce and a penthouse suite in Sandton, worth about 24 million. And I mean, you have a church, about thousands of people. 80% of these people are struggling to pay their bills every month. They're struggling to pay their cars, their kids going to school. They take their money, basically, give you and all that kind of stuff. So I wrote a question: should Christians give to rich pastors? And I quoted a verse from Proverbs 22:16. And then it took me back to court again. And believe it or not, the judge found me guilty for indirectly defaming him. I was sentenced to prison, 20 days in prison, suspended for 2 years. So I'm currently under suspension. That's why I cannot say a lot of stuff that I know.
Okay.
But for me, we're dealing with the mafia. when we begin to see incidences where, a dead person is raised in the church, we're dealing with the mafia. If you look at that in itself, when I look at this situation, let me just hammer on this situation, I see an intersection between science and spirituality and Christianity. And we're trying to show which one is superior. So, and you see, when you raise somebody from the dead, it's almost like, for us, the highest level of miracle. You would be the man. Jesus raised 3 people from the dead. In Mark, in Luke, and in John, first it was his friend Lazarus, obviously, and then there was Jairus' daughter, and then there was the guy he ran into, when the widow's son, when they were taking him to go bury him. So obviously, we believe in miracles. But you see, once you do that, for us, there is a place for science in the church, in our life, in society, and there's a place for there's a place for God. And there's there's times and places where it's okay for science to seem like God is not over it. But because he knows. He knows everything, basically. So we're seeing a situation where more and more in churches of these false prophets, where you are trying to create a miracle that would really get people to look at scriptures, look at the text, and to begin to see you as God, because you're trying to take the place of God. That's basically what we're trying to do. Most of these churches, if you go there, they pray, the God of my pastor, the God of Major One, the God of that's so there's this hierarchy that you have to get to, and gradually they're taking attention of God unto themselves. But we're seeing that more and more, and we have to get to a place where we ask ourselves, what's the role of science and what's the role of God? We must not be confused about it. When it's a miracle, then it means that it has to pass through even, science needs to prove it to a certain level. But unfortunately in this case, even science itself was actually exposed the whole situation. So we have to look at it and really tell ourselves, what is happening. And because we see quite a lot of that. And in my work, basically, and looking at prophets and pastors, I get a lot of reports from people every single day telling me how much the leadership or the church pastors have really hurt them, like every single day.
So this seems to be a real crisis.
This is a real crisis.
And just not to cut you, where do you see us going as Africa, in South Africa, in the churches? If this trend continues, where do you see us going with this?
I see us getting to a place where the relevance of Christianity in society would be so diminished, in families, in lives, would be so diminished. Our voice would be quietened. We're not going to be able to speak with authority anymore. And then society will be in trouble, because we have quite a lot of that. And I feel what I've been doing has been, because especially with the resurrection story, it was kind of like, people were telling me it was kind of like a vindication of what I've been through with this guy. Because a lot of people knew about it, and I had to stay back. God said, look, Solomon, stay back. And it was more like a medication, because people begin to question it. Because people who used to believe in him now begin to question a lot of stuff, which for me, I don't want you to take what I say or what I talk about. I want you to interrogate it. I want you to make decision for yourself.
Right.
I don't want to tell you what to do. You go through that route with God and allow God to reveal that to you. And we have a generation in South Africa here where I think we have to go back to studying scripture. A lot of people that go to those churches, they don't study scriptures, and then they go there and they tell them what to do, and we have to also feel compassionate towards the people that go to some of these, that are victims of these false prophets. Some of them are naive, they don't know what's going on, and they truly are seeking for God. So we really have to help out.
Thank you so much, Solomon, for that. I think my take-home points from you is the fact that Christians, we need to study the Bible for ourselves and not take what the men of God are saying just from their mouth. Second, if it's a genuine miracle, it has to have scientific evidence. When Jesus healed the leper, he said, go to the priests. Let people verify the genuineness of the miracle.
Sure.
And the third point is that we are in a serious crisis. We need to do something about it. Let's have compassion on others. Thank you so much, Solomon, for those thoughts.